I called my fiancé late that night just to hear his voice, but before I could say a word, I heard him laughing with his friends and saying, "The fool doesn't know I'm already done with her." Stick with me. For a second, I thought I misheard him. My phone was still pressed to my ear, my finger frozen over the screen. I hadn't even said hello yet. He didn't know I was on the line. In the background, I could hear glasses clinking, music low, his friends laughing along like it was the funniest joke in the world. My heart didn't just break, it dropped. Like someone pulled the floor out from under me. Tobias Hawthorne, the man who held my hand in front of my parents. The man who talked about wedding venues and baby names. The man who kissed my forehead and said I made his life peaceful. Done with me? I stayed silent, barely breathing. One of his friends asked, "So when are you telling her?" Toby chuckled, that same warm laugh I used to love. "No rush. Let her enjoy the fantasy a little longer." More laughter. Fantasy. I felt heat rush to my face, then cold all over. My grip tightened around the phone so hard my knuckles hurt. I wanted to scream into the speaker. I wanted to demand answers right then. But I didn't. I don't even know why. Maybe shock glued my mouth shut. Maybe my heart wasn't ready to hear more. Or maybe some quiet instinct told me that what I was hearing was only the surface. I slowly pulled the phone away and ended the call without a sound. The apartment felt different after that. Same walls, same couch, same framed photos of us smiling on vacations, but everything looked fake now. Like props on a stage. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing. Memories replayed in my head, but now they felt edited, suspicious. Late work nights. Missed calls. The way he sometimes smiled at texts he wouldn't show me. How long had this been going on? Was I really the only one who didn't know? Tears came, but quietly. Not dramatic. Just steady, heavy drops that fell before I could stop them. I kept hearing his voice. "The fool doesn't know." I lay back against the pillow, phone still in my hand, heart cracked wide open. But beneath the heartbreak, something else flickered. Not forgiveness. Not confrontation. Something colder. My mind started racing faster than my emotions. Questions turned into thoughts. Thoughts turned into possibilities. Did I call him out now? Or did I wait and learn exactly who I was really engaged to? After that call, something inside me changed. I didn't confront Toby. I didn't cry in front of him. I didn't ask questions. I watched. And the more I watched, the more things stopped making sense. It started with small things. Missed calls he never returned. Texts he replied to hours later with simple answers like, "Busy babe," or "Work's crazy." At first, I tried to believe him. I wanted to believe him. But once you hear someone call you a fool, you stop hearing their words the same way. One night, he said he was staying late at the office. Around midnight, I checked his location out of habit. He wasn't at the office. He was across town, near a bar he used to go to with his college friends. I didn't text him. I just saved the information in my mind. A few days later, we went to dinner with his friends, the same ones I heard laughing that night. I used to think they liked me, that we were all close. Now I watched their faces carefully. Every time I spoke, they shared quick looks. One of them, Derek, smirked when Toby put his arm around me. Another, Miles, asked fake sweet questions about wedding planning like it was some inside joke. Then Toby excused himself to take a call. The moment he left, the table went quiet. I pretended to scroll on my phone, but I could feel their eyes on me. Derek leaned back and said, "So, big day coming, huh?" I smiled politely. "Yeah, still planning." His smirk deepened, like he knew something I didn't. When Toby came back, the energy shifted again, like actors returning to their roles. That's when I understood something clearly. They weren't just bystanders. They were part of it. They knew he was humiliating me behind my back, and they enjoyed it. The betrayal stung deeper than I expected. Not just Toby, all of them. Every laugh, every look, every fake toast at dinner. But instead of breaking me, it sharpened me. I stopped reacting emotionally around him. I became observant. Quiet. Careful. I noticed how he angled his phone away when texting. How he suddenly cared more about his appearance before work meetings. How he avoided eye contact when I mentioned the future. Each small lie stacked on the next like bricks. And I kept collecting them. Not written down, I didn't need to. My memory held every detail. Dates. Times. Expressions. Excuses. He thought I was still blind. Still trusting. Still the fool he joked about. But inside, my heartbreak was slowly hardening into something else. Not loud anger. Not messy confrontation. Something quieter, colder. I started thinking less like a fiancé and more like someone studying an opponent. And the more pieces of the puzzle I gathered, the clearer the picture became. Toby wasn't just drifting away. He was already gone. He just hadn't realized yet that I was no longer standing still where he left me. A week after the call, I finally decided to bring it up. Not because I expected honesty, but because I wanted to see how far he would go to lie. We were in the kitchen, late evening. He was scrolling on his phone while I made coffee. The apartment was quiet, almost peaceful, the kind of normal that now felt fake to me. I kept my voice calm. I called you last Thursday night. He didn't look up. Yeah, I remember. I was out with the guys. I know, I said. You didn't realize I was still on the line. That made him pause. Slowly, he lifted his eyes to me. I held his gaze. I heard what you said, Toby. Silence filled the space between us. For a split second, I saw it, that flash of panic. But it disappeared just as fast. He leaned back against the counter and laughed lightly. Marin, seriously? My chest tightened. You said you were already done with me. He shook his head, smiling like I was being dramatic. You must have taken it out of context. We were joking around. The guys were teasing me about bachelor life ending. I stared at him. You called me a fool. He exhaled, suddenly annoyed. Wow. So now you're spying on my private conversations. There it was. The shift. From him being guilty to me being the problem. I wasn't spying, I said quietly. I called you. Still, he shrugged. It's kind of paranoid to twist a joke into some betrayal story. Paranoid. The word hit harder than I expected. He stepped closer, placing his hands on my shoulders like he was calming me down. You know I love you. You're overthinking. I forced a small nod, like I accepted it. But inside, something locked into place. Later that weekend, I saw him with his friends again. I stayed back while they talked near the bar patio. They didn't know I was close enough to hear. Derek snorted. She bought the excuse? Toby smirked. Easily. Marin hates conflict. She'll never leave. Laughter followed. Miles added. Man, you've got her wrapped. I turned away before they could see my face. The hurt was still there, sharp, personal, humiliating. But it wasn't the only emotion anymore. As I sat in the car afterward, waiting for Toby to finish inside, my thoughts felt strangely clear. Let him think I believed him. Let his friends think I was weak. Let them laugh. My reflection in the windshield looked calm, almost cold. Let him think he's untouchable, I told myself quietly. I will make him regret underestimating me. That night, while he slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I wasn't thinking like a heartbroken woman anymore. I was planning. Not loud revenge. Not messy drama. Something deeper. I would take back my dignity piece by piece. Emotionally. Socially. Carefully. And when it was over, he wouldn't even remember when the ground started slipping beneath his feet. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my family, not mutual friends. I kept everything locked inside, letting it harden quietly. But there was one person I couldn't hide it from forever, Clara Duval. Clara had been my best friend since college. She knew Toby almost as long as I did. She was there the night I first introduced him, the night I said, I think he's the one. So when I asked her to meet for coffee, she already sensed something was wrong. The moment we sat down, she reached across the table. What happened, Marin? I tried to stay composed, but my voice cracked anyway. I told her about the call. The laughter. The fool comment. The lies that followed. Clara didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she leaned back slowly, eyes dark with anger. I always thought something felt off about him lately. That surprised me. Why didn't you say anything? Because you looked happy, she said gently. And I didn't have proof. Now you do. Hearing it out loud made everything more real. I expected Clara to tell me to leave him immediately. To pack my things, block his number, disappear. But she didn't. Instead, her voice lowered. What do you want to do? I stared into my coffee. I don't want a messy breakup. I want him exposed. I want everyone to see who he really is. Clara nodded slowly. Then we do this smart. From that day, she became my quiet ally. Nothing obvious. Nothing dramatic. Just small, careful moves. At group gatherings, Clara would steer conversations in ways that let Toby talk too much, especially about himself. His arrogance always slipped out when he felt admired. At a dinner party, she casually asked about loyalty in relationships. Toby laughed and made a joke that earned awkward silence from others. Another time, She invited one of his co-workers, someone neutral, and Toby drank enough to brag about never settling too soon. Each moment was subtle, but people noticed. I watched it happen slowly. Respect shifting. Doubt forming. Clara never made it look planned. To everyone else, it felt natural. But behind the scenes, we were guiding the spotlight. Even with that small sense of control, the hurt never fully left me. Sitting beside him, hearing him speak like he was the perfect partner, still stung. But empowerment was growing too. Then Clara told me something that raised the stakes even higher. He's planning to propose. Publicly. Soon. My stomach dropped. A public proposal meant pressure. Spectacle. No easy exit without humiliation. Failure wasn't an option anymore. If I was going to reveal the truth, I had to do it before he locked me into his performance forever. A few days after Clara told me about the proposal plan, I decided I needed real proof. Not guesses. Not feelings. Something solid. That's when Lydia Keaton's name first came into focus. I had heard Toby mention her before, always casually. Just a co-worker. Project partner. Nothing suspicious on the surface. But once I started paying attention, her name appeared too often. Late meetings. Work dinners. Messages he smiled at but never explained. One evening, Toby told me he had to stay late at the office again. Same calm excuse. Same quick kiss goodbye. Instead of going home, I drove to his office building. I don't even know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe I just wanted to prove to myself I was overthinking. I parked across the street and waited. An hour passed. Then I saw him. He walked out of the building, but he wasn't alone. Lydia was beside him. She was laughing at something he said, her hand lightly touching his arm. Not professional. Not distant. Familiar. My chest tightened, but I stayed still. They didn't go separate ways. They walked together to a nearby bar. I followed, keeping my distance. Through the window, I watched them sit close in a corner booth. No space between them. At first, they talked normally. Then his hand slid across the table and covered hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she smiled, soft, intimate, practiced. Minutes later, she leaned closer and whispered something in his ear that made him laugh. The same laugh I once thought belonged only to me. And then it happened. He kissed her. Not quick. Not hesitant. Comfortable. Familiar. Like it wasn't the first time. My vision blurred instantly. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I had imagined this moment in my fears, but seeing it was different. He wasn't confused. He wasn't conflicted. He was relaxed, happy. I stayed there longer than I should have, watching them talk, touch, exist like I didn't exist at all. Heartbreak and anger fought inside me. Part of me wanted to run inside, throw the ring at him, scream in front of everyone. But another part, colder, steadier, held me in place. Proof. I needed proof. When I got home, I didn't cry right away. I opened my laptop instead. I started writing everything down. Dates. Times. Locations. Excuses he gave me. What I saw. What they did. Every detail. If he thought I was still the fool, then he had no idea how carefully I was documenting the truth that would eventually destroy the image he worked so hard to protect. After I saw Toby and Lydia together, something inside me settled. The doubt was gone. The confusion too. Now I had clarity, and with clarity came control. I didn't confront him. I didn't change how I acted at home. If anything, I became calmer. Kinder. Easier to be around. Toby relaxed again, thinking whatever distance he felt from me had faded. That worked in my favor, because while he felt safe, I was quietly setting the stage around him. It started small. At gatherings with his friends, I began asking harmless questions that let Toby talk freely. He loved attention, loved sounding impressive. One night at Derek's apartment, I casually asked, "Do you think people settle too fast in relationships?" Toby laughed, sipping his drink. Happens all the time. People get comfortable and stop trying. A few of the guys exchanged looks. I pretended not to notice. Another time, I mentioned loyalty while we were all out for dinner. "I think emotional cheating is worse than physical," I said lightly. Toby smirked. "Depends who you ask." The table went quiet for a second. He didn't even realize what he was revealing. I never accused him directly. I just placed topics in the air and let his ego do the rest. Clara helped too, always subtle. She'd invite people from his extended circle, co-workers, old college friends, mixing groups that didn't usually overlap. In those mixed settings, Toby tried harder to impress, and that's when his arrogance showed most. One evening, after a few drinks, he joked about keeping options open until marriage locks things down. Someone asked, "You serious?" He laughed it off, but the damage was done. The room felt different after that. Slowly, I watched how people reacted to him. Less admiration. More side glances. Quiet judgment. I never pushed too hard. Just enough moments, spaced out, so it felt natural, like people were forming opinions on their own. Meanwhile, I made sure Lydia's name surfaced occasionally in conversations. Nothing direct. Just casual mentions. "Is Lydia coming to the office party too? Didn't you and Lydia lead that project trip?" Each time, Toby tensed slightly, though he hid it well. The tension around him started building. He didn't know why. He'd ask me sometimes, "Do you feel like Derek's been weird lately?" I'd shrug. "Not really." But I saw it, the way he felt watched, questioned, slightly off balance. And the strangest part? He never suspected me. To him, I was still the trusting fiancé planning a future. But inside, I felt something new growing stronger with every careful move. Suspense. Thrill. Control. For the first time since that phone call, I wasn't reacting to his betrayal. I was guiding the consequences of it. Slowly tightening a trap he didn't even realize he was already standing inside. The shift didn't happen all at once. It started quietly, almost invisible, but I felt it building around Toby like pressure before a storm. His friends were the first to change. At Derek's birthday dinner, I noticed how the energy around Toby felt different. The usual laughter at his jokes came slower. When he spoke, people listened, but not the same way. More observing than admiring. At one point, Miles asked casually, "You still working late with Lydia all the time?" Toby froze for half a second before answering. "Yeah, big project." Miles nodded, but the look he shared with Derek said enough. I kept my expression neutral, sipping my drink like I wasn't paying attention. Inside, though, I felt the first spark of satisfaction. It grew stronger at the company networking event a week later, the one I knew Lydia would attend. I arrived with Toby, my arm linked through his like everything was perfect. He looked relaxed, confident, completely unaware. Lydia showed up 20 minutes later. The moment she walked in, I felt Toby tense beside me. They tried to act normal, professional, distant. But once you know the truth, you see every crack. The way their eyes met too quickly. The way conversations cut short when one approached. And I wasn't the only one noticing anymore. One of Toby's coworkers joked loudly, "You two spend more time together than married couples." A few people laughed. Lydia forced a smile. Toby brushed it off, but I saw the irritation flicker across his face. Later that evening, I stepped away to the balcony for air. Not long after, Lydia walked out too, not realizing I was already there in the shadows. Then Toby followed. They didn't see me. Their voices were low but clear enough. "This is getting messy," Lydia whispered. Toby sighed. "Just give it time. I'll handle Marin." "Handle me." My chest tightened, but I stayed still. Lydia crossed her arms. "People are talking." "They'll forget," he said confidently. "They always do." I almost laughed at that, because he had no idea how much people had already pieced together. When we returned inside, the atmosphere felt heavier. Conversations dipped when Toby joined groups. Eyes lingered longer than before. His image, the charming, loyal fiancé, was cracking in real time. And I stood beside him, calm, composed, supportive on the surface. No accusations. No scenes. Just quiet observation. Inside, though, my emotions were tangled. Pain still lived there, sharp and real. But layered over it now was something else. Release. Vindication. Watching the truth surface, without me forcing it, felt strangely cathartic. His laughter sounded thinner. His confidence looked forced. And for the first time since that night on the phone, Toby looked uncertain. The unraveling had begun. Slow. Public. Irreversible. And I felt it deep in my chest. Not joy exactly, but a tense, vindictive calm as the world finally started seeing the man I had already learned to stop loving. The confrontation finally came on a quiet Sunday night. Toby asked if we could talk. His voice sounded softer than usual, almost careful. I already knew why. We sat in the living room, the same place where we had once talked about wedding colors and honeymoon plans. Now the air felt heavy, like something was ending before either of us said it out loud. He rubbed his hands together, avoiding my eyes at first. "Marin, things have felt off lately," he started. I stayed calm. "Off how?" He sighed. "People are acting weird around me. My friends. Work too. It feels like something's spreading. I didn't respond. He finally looked at me, studying my face. Do you know anything about that? There it was, the suspicion. But still not the truth. I held his gaze steadily. Why would I? Silence stretched. Then his shoulders dropped, like he was too tired to keep pretending. I messed up, he said quietly. The words hung in the air. I didn't move. He continued, voice low. There's someone at work. It didn't mean anything serious. It just happened. Lydia's name never crossed his lips, but it didn't need to. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I was going to end it. I just needed time. Time. I felt the old hurt stir, but it didn't control me anymore. He reached for my hand. I still want us. I still want to marry you. We can fix this. I let him hold my hand for exactly 3 seconds before pulling it away gently. That's interesting, I said softly. He frowned. What is? That you think I just found out? His expression shifted, confusion first, then unease. I've known for weeks, Toby. The room went completely still. I heard the call, I continued. I saw you and Lydia at the bar. I heard you on the balcony at the networking event. Color drained from his face. You followed me? I observed you, I corrected calmly. He stood up, pacing. Why didn't you say anything? I rose slowly too, my voice steady. Because you were revealing yourself better than I ever could. He stopped walking. I watched realization hit him piece by piece. The social tension, the questions, the distance from his friends. You did this, he whispered. I didn't deny it. I didn't lie for you, I said. I didn't expose you loudly either. I just gave you space to show people who you are. His jaw tightened. That's manipulative. I almost smiled. You called me a fool, Toby. Silence crashed between us. All the heartbreak I carried finally surfaced, not as tears, but as controlled fury. You underestimated me, I said. That was your mistake. For the first time since I'd known him, Toby looked small. And in that moment, I felt something release inside my chest. Not love. Not grief. Power. Ending things with Toby in private was one thing. Ending them publicly was something else entirely. But I knew it had to be done. A week after our confrontation, I made the announcement. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just clear. We had been invited to a small engagement dinner his parents planned. Close friends, family, people expecting wedding updates. I wore the ring that night, knowing it would be the last time. Halfway through dinner, Toby's mother stood to make a toast about our future. She spoke warmly, proudly, already calling me her daughter. When she finished, all eyes turned to us. That was my moment. I stood slowly, heart steady even though my chest felt tight. I want to say something too, I said. The room quieted instantly. I slipped the ring off my finger, holding it in my palm for a second before placing it gently on the table in front of Toby. I can't marry you, I said calmly. Gasps rippled around the table. Toby went pale. Marin. I raised a hand slightly. I know about Lydia. I know about everything. Silence fell heavier than before. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just spoke the truth and let it sit there. His parents looked stunned. His friends avoided eye contact. I turned, picked up my purse, and walked out before anyone could turn it into a scene. That was the last public moment we shared. After that, I started cutting ties quietly. Group chats muted. Invitations declined. Numbers deleted. Anyone who had laughed, watched, or enabled his behavior lost access to me. It wasn't loud revenge. It was boundaries. The apartment we shared felt suffocating, so I moved out within 2 weeks. A smaller place, but it felt lighter. Mine. For the first few nights, the silence hurt. I won't pretend it didn't. Memories lived in small things, songs, mugs, routines. Sometimes I'd sit on the couch and feel both relieved and deeply sad at the same time. Healing wasn't instant, but self-respect returned faster than I expected. I started sleeping better, breathing easier, looking at myself in the mirror without feeling foolish. Still, I'd be lying if I said the satisfaction wasn't there. Knowing he lost the image he built. Knowing people saw the truth without me begging them to. It didn't erase the heartbreak, but it balanced it. One evening, while unpacking boxes, I found the notebook where I had written all my observations. I flipped through the pages slowly, then closed it for good. That chapter was finished. I wasn't the woman who got betrayed anymore. I was the woman who walked away with her dignity intact, even if the victory carried a quiet, bittersweet ache alongside it. I didn't stay long enough to watch Toby's world collapse in real time. But news has a way of traveling, especially when you leave quietly instead of creating noise. At first, the updates came through Clara. She never gossiped, but she kept me informed when it mattered. Toby and Lydia didn't last. She told me one afternoon over lunch. Too much tension. Too many rumors. I wasn't surprised. Affairs built on secrecy rarely survive exposure. A few weeks later, I heard his friend group had fractured too. Derek stopped inviting him out. Miles distanced himself completely. The same people who once laughed at me were now avoiding him. Reputation is fragile like that. At work, things weren't better. Toby's professional image had taken a hit. Nothing officially documented, but enough whispers to cost him leadership opportunities. Lydia transferred departments to escape the attention. The perfect, charming persona he curated was cracking everywhere. And the strange part? I felt no urge to step in, no need to add fuel. I had already done enough by stepping away. My life, meanwhile, was becoming quieter in a healthier way. I settled into my new apartment fully. New routines. New spaces untouched by old memories. I started spending more time with people who felt safe. Clara, a few close coworkers, my family. Trust didn't come back instantly. I questioned compliments. I analyzed kindness longer than I should have. Betrayal leaves echoes like that. But I also felt stronger. Clearer about what I would never tolerate again. One evening, months later, I was walking home after dinner. The air was cool, peaceful. For the first time in a long while, my mind wasn't heavy. As I reached my building door, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then opened the message. It was Toby. Just one line. I didn't realize what I lost until it was gone. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked my phone without replying. No anger. No temptation. Just closure. Upstairs, I stood by my window looking out at the city lights, thinking about everything that had happened. The call, the laughter, the humiliation, the careful revenge. His voice echoed faintly in my memory. The fool doesn't know I'm. I let out a slow breath. Because now the sentence felt different. He was right about one thing back then. Someone hadn't known. But it wasn't me. I had seen the truth, planned my exit, and walked away with my dignity intact while his world unraveled behind me. If anyone had been the fool in the end, it was the man who mistook my silence for weakness, and never realized he was losing me until I was already gone. This story shows the importance of trusting your instincts and observing patterns in relationships. If something feels off, pay attention, gather evidence, and protect your well-being. Take control of your life calmly and thoughtfully. Don't ignore red flags. Self-respect and awareness are key to avoiding emotional harm.